Kung Fu Panda, Incredibles and the likes. So they're the box office takings. Then what we've done is we actually took the movie review score. I will make this available, so again I apologise for this, it's just really to give you what we're trying to go through. We've got the movie review score. What we've also done is actually taken the estimated viewings. So we've just taken the box office revenue divided by sort of, rough $12 to see if we could get like how many viewings of a movie there was by people or individuals. Now, again, we're not taking out the fact that people go back and see it 3 or 4 times. So there is some sort of maybe something in my ideology or the methodology here that may not be 100% correct, but it's just trying to give you an idea of it. We've actually got the lifetime data of sales and then the game review scores. And I suppose the interesting thing within this is really to look at, say, the original Harry Potter. They had a movie review score of 64, we had about 1.7 viewings, and the game went on and sold 230,000 or 231,000 copies. Now, on this list, that is the #1 selling game. Now, the game review scores are at 64, so it's not the best of games. But what we would say is the game purchase is probably, for the first one, is definitely based off the history of the books. It's off the franchise and off the hype of the first movie, knowing that a whole lot was going on. So people bought into that first game, the first movie, okay? Same with, say, something like Lord of the Rings. Probably not as much, because here's a different example where the movie scored sort of a 92, you had 1.9 million sort of viewings, but you sold less than 100,000 copies. Now, my view on, and then the game rating was 63. My view on that is, and there's probably 2 positions here, the Harry Potter product targeted more of a kids market where the review score isn't as critical to the kids as just playing in the Harry Potter universe. They're not as discerning as probably what is the Lord of the Rings customer, who is the 16 to 25-year-old male who really knows about his games and is going, what? Yeah, I might want to play it, but it's not a good game, so I'm not going to actually extend that even further. Whereas with Potter, it's like, hey, I just need it, I need to go with it. The other thing that needs to be pointed out, and one of the things that I'll get through when I'm looking at it, is the history of these products, when they're launched and the formats that they're launched on and what life cycle those formats were at plays a big part. The original Harry Potter sold over half its units on Game Boy Color and the original PlayStation. And that's a bit of a that seems to be a bit of something that happens time and time again, that about 50% of the numbers are done on a Nintendo format and a PlayStation format. So keep that in mind when we're looking at some of these other titles and what life cycle PlayStation, PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3 are at when these movies are launched. So you go through and have a look, and I suppose one of the ones that stands out to me, what stood out to me, was Transformers. Now, Transformers as a movie rated at 61, it had 1.9 million viewers, it had sold 211,000 but had a game review score of 57. I just think there are just Transformer nuts everywhere. That's just a simple fact. And that people wanted to play in the Transformer universe. Didn't matter that the game scored poorly, it was still pretty cool. And for kids, which is where, although a lot of adults went to see it because I played with Transformers, I like Transformers, and my son plays with Transformers, we went and saw the movie, we loved it, thought it was good, but I didn't play the game, but he did. So you can actually get a market where, although you can have a very wide movie market, you can have a sort of a younger demographic for the game. And the game actually is quite solid. I actually don't understand why it reviewed to where it was. I actually think it probably was reviewed harshly by the 18 to 35-year-old journalists who really wanted a really good Transformers game and didn't get it. So maybe that was a bit harshly treated as far as that's concerned. Probably the thing then to notice is the last few movies, and when you look at Ratatouille, B-movie, sort of Iron Man and some of those things, what we have is we have some gaming numbers that are looking quite poor in relation to the lifetime sales of the other properties. The reason for this really is the fact is the decline in the PlayStation 2 market. The Wii hadn't taken up where it was sitting with the mass market, and sort of DS was there as well, but not making up for what was the what is the mass market machine, which is was the Sony PS2. And though,
Sorry, can I just ask a quick question?
yeah,
Would you assume that all of those games have very similar budgets?
no. The Lord of the Rings properties have fairly high budgets, especially the last one, which I think Return of the King, which actually did quite well, and its rating at 85 actually did exceptionally well. It was a very, very good game. Probably the kids' movies, I would suggest, would be very similar. You know, you get a sort of a model where you go, you know what, we need to sell 1 million units to be able to do that. It is a bit of a, you know, we sit down in meetings and go, this is a good property, we think it could do well. We then target it against what similar movies have done or similar games have done and go, well, we would need to sell this many units, therefore to sell this many units we need to set the budget at X to be able to do it. Can we do it within that time frame?
What would you say, like, if those superhero films part of that, would they all be similar?
I would suggest most of them would. I would suggest most of them would. Like I said, I could probably comment on sort of things like Iron Man and Hulk and things where I actually have knowledge where they were fairly similar.
Game sales are only relevant if you know. I mean, if the Lord of the Rings had a budget that was a $20 million budget, not just a gift, if it had a $20 million game development budget that's made, you know, 93,000 sales, obviously it needs to sell a lot more to make a profit.
Yes.
And I've worked on projects, film projects that didn't necessarily have huge amounts of sales, but I found out after the markets went, no, we were happy because we made profit, and
Yes.
that's the goal. So.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. And this is where you've got to look at it as when the business situation comes in, and this is where we look at it and go, you know, where's the movie at? What's the game going to be at? What do we need to sell? And we then work between that. As I said, I don't have visibility in a lot of these sort of budgets of what's going on, but you know, the Lord of the Rings movies and also the Harry Potter sort of have worked out very well for EA. So I think there is a balance between it, and then we get up to that quality versus brand versus, and then throw in cost as we do it.
I've got to ask. You were talking before about you sit down and have these meetings, obviously, analyse all this stuff, and then you also said before that the games, as perceived by most people in this room, I imagine, and the public and the industry, that movie games are substandard on average. Does that factor into your estimated sales projection?
We use this data to work out what we're going to be at, and we actually, when we sit down and go, well, you know, if we spend, you know, $3 million on doing, you know, 2 SKUs, we know the quality of game we're going to get, and then we said, well, if that's the quality, we're going to have to sell this amount. Can we sell that amount to be able to make it all happen? A very, very large property being worked on at the moment, a movie property that we were involved in a pitch in, we looked at and would have had to have sold double the Lord of the Rings numbers to be able to make any money. And we said, as much as we would love to be involved in it, we can't make it work. So thank you very much. We'd love to be involved in it. It'd be great for our brand. It'd be great to be involved in that project. But if it ain't going to make any money for us, we've really got to say no. And I think movie games, and I suppose this is where movie games fall into part of a game publisher's portfolio of products. If you just did movie games, you'd probably be in a lot of hurt. You have to put it into a mix of, you've got what we call ready-to-market games. You know, we could throw the Ubisoft Imagine range or things like that, where you get them out, it's a time frame, you've got to be there. And then we have things like, you know, the blockbuster AAA products, you know, like things like Alpha Protocol that we're working on with Obsidian, the likes of Bayonetta that we're working on with Platinum Games. So you've got to have a balance between those. But some movie games can be profitable. You've just got to manage it a little bit sort of, you know, better, and you've got to hit some strict budgets, strict timelines. Timing is probably the element that everyone's really fighting against, because we just, at the current time, we get involved too late in the projects and then have to revisit a lot of stuff, which is, you know, the movie guys have already done. You know,
So competitors take the show you turned down?
they can?
No, did they?
Did they? Someone will. We wish them luck. Okay, so this data, and I said I'll make this available so people can just sort of have a quick squiz through it and just see what is there. But you know, EA did a good, and one of the things that EA does, and you look at the Lord of the Rings, each time they put out a new Lord of the Rings, the quality went up, because they knew where they were at from the first one to the second one to the third. The quality of the game got better and better, and I know the last one was actually a sensational game. People absolutely loved it and played it in that universe. So people need to realise that it can be just not one. You've got to invest in it. If you know you've got a trilogy, you can actually build the engine, get it all together, and sort of try and get that quality up. And that's where EA's done with